Springdale City Council work session to order and ask Nicole to take roll call, please.
Carberry Montgomery. Here. Kroll. Here. McBurney.
Here.
Blake and Obrecht are absent.
All right, thank you, Nicole. And is there a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
By McBurney, second by Kroll. Discussion, roll call.
McBurney.
Yes.
Kroll.
Yes.
Carberry Montgomery.
Yes.
Thank you.
All right, thank you. And item 3 then is to discuss succession planning. And
Just make a few brief opening comments. Mr. Mayor, members of council, thank you for making time for us this evening. As I was talking casually around the table, this is our first experiment in one of 2 time frames that we're looking to possibly restructure our lunch and learn type of format to provide you information in advance of items that will come to you either formally at a future council meeting or during a budget session or something to bring you up to date on as a follow-up to a previous council meeting. Tonight, we are going to, under your strategic planning process, you identified the need and the desire for us to continue to look at our strategic succession planning process. And so having discussed this with our HR director, Aaron Freeman, we came up with a brief program, or she did mostly, to bring you up to speed as to what we're doing and some of the things that we're going to be looking at into the future, just as kind of a precursor to our budget time, is that some of the things we talk about will have budget implications. So with that, Aaron, if you would, please.
Turn that on. Thank you. Appreciate it. And good evening. Thank you all for being here early tonight. As AJ mentioned, everyone identified succession planning as an important part of the strategic planning process when we went through that last year. And so AJ and I first thought we'd take a look at our current workforce and what is the makeup of that workforce? What does it look like? Do we have a lot of retirements on the horizon? If we do, where are those? And what employee types does that come from? And from there, we use that to drive the decision on how we are going to approach this. So because of limited time and resources, ultimately we decided we were going to break this into chunks. The high-risk areas are those positions and departments where we have immediate leadership turnover potential, of course. So we're going to address those first. And we've already started to have some of those conversations with a few departments, so that is already underway. The next step then will be to look at those leadership positions that might be 3 to 5 years out from retirement. Those are in a really good position to start having conversations now, because that gives us ample time to deploy some of those resources that we've put together to help them plan and start doing more cross-training, to have that continuity of operations, and hopefully developing some internal talent too, to take over those positions. It's no secret, we've talked a little bit in the past that recruitment and retention is a challenge right now in the public sector, and we're not immune from that. Applications are down about 65% from this time in 2017. At that time, I believe we were getting 53 applications on average per job posting, and now we're down to 19. And keep in mind, that's just number of applications, not number of qualified applications. So of course that number dwindles down, and it's not uncommon now when we certify an eligibility list with civil service that it has 1, 2, or 3 people on it. So we just are deploying a lot of measures to try to combat that. You've probably noticed an uptick in HR initiatives, trying to enhance our compensation and benefits package, and some other things like this with succession planning, adding recruiting incentives that you have been very supportive of to try to combat those recruitment and retention issues. So thank you for that. We haven't really had an established formal succession planning process in place in the past, so we're developing this from scratch a little bit as we go. So here is kind of what we're looking at from an outlook perspective across all the different types of employees in our organization. Now, this fluctuates because we always have a handful of vacancies at any given time, but we have roughly 255 full-time employees at the time that we ran this report. Of those, 14 are director-level department heads, 39 are in a supervisory capacity of some sort, and 202 are non-supervisory personnel. And then this goes into a little bit more detail about how many are eligible to retire now, within 2 years, and then within 5 years. That's how we decided to tackle this. Keep in mind that these statistics are merely based on retirement age, not somebody's actual intent to retire. We see people go early, maybe based on personal health conditions or something comes up in their life. And we see people go later too, work later than they would have to. So this is just our best guesstimate. So looking at this, at the director level, this is what we would consider kind of that high-risk area because these individuals have a really big impact on the organization as a whole. And looking at that, right now, this year, about a fifth of our directors are eligible to retire, which is significant. Out of the 14, that is 3. Of course, Jerry Holt just retired last Friday, so now 2 of the 13 remaining director-level positions are eligible to retire right now. That isn't necessarily the plan, but they could. So, what kind of plans can we put in place to help make sure that there's that continuity that keeps going and hopefully develop that internal talent to get ready to take the next step in their career too. As we look down to the supervisor level there in the middle, like I said, we have 39 employees in some sort of supervisory capacity in the city. Right now, 13% of them are eligible to retire this year, but within 5 years, that goes up to 26%. When you also account for the fact that hopefully many of those will backfill director level positions, you're looking at about a third of our supervisors across the whole city that will vacate their position in the next 5 years. That is really significant. So what can we do to develop staff all the way down just to the staff level to make sure that we can backfill and fill in those as needed? This chart's going to show you just where that risk is by department. Keep in mind that these percentages are a percentage of total eligible to retire, not within that department. So that means that 26% of all of the employees eligible to retire in the city are coming from the police department, for example. In the next 5 years, it doesn't mean that 26% of the police department is eligible to retire. So don't let that scare you. But this just helps show you kind of where that risk is then. Some of these are staff level positions, some are supervisory, some are director level, and we'll take a deeper dive into that on the next slide. But this just helped us narrow down where to focus our efforts. So we've already had conversations naturally, just based on this data with the police department, with community development, and with some departments in administration as well. Fire stands out as another large percentage on here. They're in the middle of some leadership change already, so we'll have more in-depth conversations when a new fire chief is identified. This is going to go into more detail about within each department then where the risk is for retirements in the next 5 years. So the orange represents director level positions. Pink is supervisory positions at any level, and green represents staff. So for example, if you look at community development, you'll see that we have somebody at the director level that can retire in the next 5 years, 1 supervisor, and then 2 members of their staff. Whereas in comparison in engineering and public works, all of their potential upcoming retirements in the next 5 years come at the staff level, not at the leadership level. So this helps us to know where to focus in, right? That's why I say we've already had those conversations with community development, with administration, and to some extent with fire and EMS as well.
So this is a really silly starting question. So is this like rule of 88 retirement based on IPERS or based on the police and fire, or is it like Medicare?
That is an excellent question. So this is earliest possible retirement. So 62 for IPERS, 55 for municipal fire and police.
Okay.
Yeah, and we often have people that retire before 62 because they meet their rule of 88. And in municipal fire and police, we have people that work later than 55 too, just because they could go then. So it really goes both ways.
Okay.
Yeah, so we're making some assumptions too. We also have no access to the data on where people have service with IPERS, for example, prior to coming here. So we're just assuming that they'll retire at a normal retirement age. And if they had credit for quarters somewhere else before coming here, we wouldn't know that. So it's potential that they could go even sooner.
And I guess with that, I mean, IPERS at 62 only matters if you have 20 years.
Yeah.
So otherwise it's a 65 normal. So
Yeah.
skew that a little bit.
Yeah, it definitely does. And we have people that go, like I said, we have several people that go before 62 even. And some people that work after 65, even though they don't need the quarter. So you just never know. Some people just love to work for us so much they can't bear to leave. But the tool that we developed to start to have these conversations, we're calling it an employee development plan, an EDP. And that is going to go into detail where leaders can meet with talent within their department on developing on-the-job training, mentoring, and other professional development and education opportunities to help get them ready for the next level. It's really going to focus on what skills and knowledge do they currently have, and then what do they need to take it to the next level. We really want to make sure that we are developing people for the next job. You know, we don't want to just put someone in a supervisory position just because they're really good at their current job, and we don't want to set them up for failure. So those are very unique plans established for each individual based on their current skills and what they need. So we started to deploy that out to a few different departments, and they're having those conversations as we speak. We hope that that is really successful, and that within the next couple of years, then we can roll that out citywide to all staff. I think that'll be an important tool in retention as well. We're a relatively small and flat organization, so we don't have a lot of typical what you would consider promotional opportunities. And if we go back to this slide here, you'll see that the average tenure for staff is 8 years, which is still pretty good, but the average tenure for people in a supervisor or director level position is up to 17 years. That to me is telling the story that we're losing staff before they get promoted because people are looking for that next opportunity in their career, and we just don't have it to offer. So I'm really hopeful that these employee development plans will give people the opportunity to expand their skill set, their knowledge base, and even if they don't stay with us, we've grown them as employees, we've benefited from it during the time that they were here, and we've at least got them ready for it. And I think that'll be really important with retention. So those are just kind of very high-level overview of what we're doing right now with succession planning and where we're focusing our initial efforts.
What's your timeline on trying to get some of these pieces kind of put in place?
So we're already working with those high-risk departments right now, and it's a moving target. I anticipate that we'll just continue to be having these discussions, filling out these employee development plans, and really changing. It's a fluid situation as people leave. None of this also accounted for just regular attrition and turnover. So we're just going to, it's something that is just going to have to be at the forefront in every day that we're doing going forward. That's a good question.
I also mentioned that, you know, as I mentioned in my introductory comments, was that this is kind of a precursor to what we believe and we will share with directors, is that as you look at these plans and you look at your employment base within your operation, is that, you know, monetarily start looking at adding money. Now, the directors put in money each year for conferences and training and to accommodate the certifications, thank you, I went blank there for a minute, continuing education requirements, et cetera. And, but we want to be able to, again, as Aaron mentioned, those high risk or those departments that have a higher propensity of those potential retirements, is to start looking at some more robust plans. Mm-hmm. Also, we put money in the HR budget each year that has more of an umbrella effect, that we do leadership training for new supervisors. We do other things that have citywide impact. But those are more of a, you know, it's kind of a one size fits all, and hopefully we'll be looking to our directors to develop more things that if they identify person A or person B, and they have a real strong skill set in communications, but maybe it's on a budgetary side or some type of financial analysis, depending what their activities are, that they'll start moving that person there. After an evaluation, we will find people that say, I'm fine where I'm at. That they will say, I like what I'm doing, that next level up doesn't have that appeal, and they'll just be fine. And we'll just want to continue to enhance their skill set to provide a high level of service.
Yeah, that's an excellent point. And there really is no end date to this project. It's really more a start date. This is something we're starting, and it's something we're going to continue doing. We're just going to continue to adapt to changing circumstances with our staff and with the needs that we have. And it's just going to be an ongoing practice from now on. And I'm hopeful that the more programs and systems we put in place, just more of a all-encompassing program that we'll have. These employee development plans are just a start. They're just to start and initiate that conversation. But as AJ alluded to, having a more formal leadership training program is something that, hopefully at some point that we'll have in place that, if you want to move up to the next level, here's the boxes that you check, right? We'll put you through some more formal leadership training. So we'll continue to keep adding to it as we move forward.
Couple questions. One, on the 411 system, there's is it Midnight program? It's a 5-year phase-out program that they can sign up for it.
The drop. Mhm.
Drop program, okay.
Yes,
Do we get notified when somebody signs up for that?
we do. We have to sign off on that, so we know.
Okay, so that gives us a timeline for at least that position on some of those.
It does. I'll say, though, it is less common for people to formally enter the drop than to just proceed with a retirement.
Right.
Rob could
Can you
probably
explain
better
what
explain that than I
that-
can.
Can you explain what that program is or what the drop is?
Yeah, you're definitely more expert on it than myself.
Oh, I didn't see you back there, chief. Are you dropping?
One time, but because I'm eligible for the drop, I know a little bit more about it than I used to. So the drop program, basically at the end of your career, when you're eligible for retirement, you can drop and they set your 3-year high at that point. So when you go in and talk to municipal fire, they set your 3-year average that you will earn in retirement. This is what you're gonna earn in retirement. They take that amount and put it into an account for you. And then you keep working and the city keeps paying. And that account just grows for 3, 4, or 5 years, however long you choose to drop. And then when you are officially done, that you get that money that they've set aside for you, just as if you were retired. Plus, you're still earning your income as you're working here from the city. It sounds strange, and it is. It
So you're
doesn't
getting an
cost.
extra 3 years of salary?
But
No,
you
no.
basically, you start your pension early.
You just start your pension early, and they put it into an account for you.
Oh, okay.
It sets that money that you're gonna earn. So in other words, if my compensation continues to increase with the city over that time period, that doesn't affect my 3-year average. My 3-year average is set, and they're putting that money aside for me. And then, again, once you retire, you set your date on that. When you drop, that's the date you have to leave, and then you're out the door. The kind of the weird part about it is, if you hit 55, if you drop, you only get 52% of what you would earn in retirement. And every month you stay after 55, you get another 2% added to that. So in other words, you have to wait until you're 57 to get that entire amount put into an account for you. It gets a little
Who
complicated.
comes up with these things? People like you? I don't know.
Actuaries. Math nerds like you married.
And we really haven't had that many in the department. I can't think that many have entered the drop program. It just seems like it's an infrequent program that our employees who are eligible take advantage of.
I would tell you that from what I see in our department and what I see in other departments, it's more of a management uses it more than officers for the most part. Officers get to that point in their career and they usually get out when they can, if they're not into a management level position. Whereas management makes it a little easier to stay past 55. You're not pushing a patrol car down the street. You're not tackling bad guys. You're not doing that kind of thing on a normal basis. So it makes it a little easier as you age. You don't have to maybe be exposed to those risks as often. So you might be inclined to stay a little bit longer. It's a weird program.
Thank you for explaining that.
Yep. And then the second question was kind of on the other side of encouraging retirement. An early retirement program or package. We have maybe people in waiting and we want to promote them and we want to keep them. But there may be a reason somebody's sticking around. Have we thought about early retirement options?
No, we haven't done that here. I've certainly done that other places that I've worked. With the challenging environment we're in with recruitment and retention, I don't know that now is the time for it, but that's certainly something to explore in the future if the situation warrants.
One thing we do offer is for every year you work, there is a month of single health insurance coverage. So we've had a number of employees who've decided to do that. That bridges them to the Medicare.
Yep.
And so I think, I don't know, maybe half a dozen or so that you've used the program. Not very popular, but it has, and it has accelerated some of our promotions that we've had.
Certainly. Good question. So as AJ alluded to, I wouldn't be surprised to see an increase in requests for training expenses in the upcoming budget as we start to have these conversations and those departments are trying to develop that internal talent. So, any other questions? All right, thank you so much.
And we'll be back at the end of the month for another informational session, and then you folks can decide how you want to move forward on that. We could use the old system that we had on the Tuesday over the lunch hour, whether in person or virtual, or we could do a session like this for about 20 to 25 minutes in advance of your council meeting or at the end of the council meeting. So we'll bring another intriguing subject matter to you on the 22nd and share at the end of the council meeting.
You know what that intriguing subject matter is going to be yet.
And it doesn't get any more intriguing than that, so. Okay.
All right, well, that concludes the work session. We will adjourn the work session and reconvene for the regular council.